welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're a highly motivated CLP candidate aiming for that elite CLB 9+ score, you probably already know that generic, everyday words simply aren't going to cut it. To really impress the evaluators, you need precise, localized Canadian terminology. So in this intensive masterclass, we're going to rigorously drill 15 absolutely essential vocabulary terms covering core environment and ecology. These are the exact words that'll elevate your lexical resource score and really unlock your success on the exam. Okay, let's dive right into this.
To keep things moving fast, we've divided our 15 terms into 3 thematic categories to boost your score. First up, core environment and pollution. Second, ecosystems and resources. And finally, flora, fauna, geology, and landforms. All right, let's jump straight into section 1, core environment and pollution. We're starting right here because these terms represent the absolute highest frequency foundations you're going to need, particularly for your speaking and writing tasks. Our very first word is toxic. Again, that's toxic. The exact Chinese translation is 有毒的,有害的. What's super interesting here is how perfectly this maps directly to Canadian life. You see, Canada is extremely focused on environmental protection, and pretty much every city has dedicated toxic waste drop-off centers to safely dispose of things like old batteries and paint. For CELPIP, target this one specifically for writing task 2. Pair it up into collocations like toxic waste or toxic chemicals, instead of just saying something simple like bad trash. Moving on to our next term, deplete. Deplete. In Chinese, this translates to 耗尽,大量减少. 耗尽,大量减少. Now, Canada is a massive resource-based nation, right? So you'll frequently see this exact word in discussions about managing Atlantic salmon fishing or forestry. We don't just use up resources here, we deplete natural resources. You might also see phrases like ozone depletion. The crucial takeaway is that this is a core verb you absolutely must recognize for those dense science texts you'll hit in reading part 4. Term number 3 is pollution. Listen closely. Pollution. The translation is 污染, 污染. This one is completely foundational. You'll definitely want to use collocations like water pollution, air pollution, or reduce pollution. And this actually brilliantly illustrates a real-world CELPIP background topic, the Canadian carbon tax. Now, whether you personally agree with it or not doesn't matter. It's simply one of the most debated public policies regarding how to reduce pollution in Canada. Knowing how to neutrally discuss it is absolute gold for speaking task 7, where you have to state a structured opinion. Let's actually see how this builds into a high-scoring response. Listen to this mock speaking task 7 sentence. Implementing a higher tax on gas is a necessary step to reduce air pollution in major cities. Using the word pollution in this kind of structured, real-world context demonstrates exactly how to organize your opinion for maximum points. Okay, let's look at term 4, substance. Once more, substance. In Mandarin, it means 物质,物品,实质. To hit that CLB 9+, you really need to link this word directly to the Canadian workplace. Literally every new employee in Canada goes through mandatory WHMIS training. That stands for the Workplace Hazardous Materials Information System. It is entirely about handling hazardous substances or toxic substances. Because of this, it's an absolute must-know for reading part 3, which focuses heavily on workplace information. For term 5, we have impact. Impact. In Chinese, 影响,冲击. Seriously, stop using the basic word effect. In Canada, before any large infrastructure project can even begin, the government mandates an environmental impact assessment. Use collocations like environmental impact or have a significant impact on. Doing this is a massive upgrade for your writing task 2 responses. Let's look at a mock writing task 2 sentence to really cement this 5-star word. Building a new shopping mall in this area will have a negative impact on the local wildlife. Do you see how saying negative impact instantly elevates your vocabulary accuracy compared to just saying will be bad for? That is exactly what the evaluators are looking for. Take a quick mental breath here. We're now moving into section 2, ecosystems and resources. We're shifting our focus just a bit to Canada's incredible natural assets. Term 6 is a big one, ecosystem. Ecosystem. The exact Chinese translation is 生态系统. Canada's geography is famously defined by its massive boreal forest and the Great Lakes. So you'll hear collocations like fragile ecosystem or marine ecosystem constantly. Map this term directly to listening part 6 viewpoint discussions, where local conservation efforts pop up as a very frequent topic. Term 7, resources. Resources. In Chinese, 资源,财力. Canada's economy relies heavily on natural resources like lumber and mining. But here is the real trick for CELPIP. This word has a dual use. It refers to the environment, sure, but it also means financial capability or human resources in a typical workplace. For instance, you can allocate resources to a new project. This makes it a total powerhouse word for speaking task 6 when you're dealing with difficult, real-life situations. Let's see how this works in an impressive answer. Unfortunately, our community center doesn't have the financial resources to upgrade the gym equipment this year. Showcasing this essential word in a financial or organizational context proves to the grader that you have a highly dynamic, flexible vocabulary. Term 8, reserve. I'll say it again, reserve. The Chinese meaning is 保护区,储备,预定,保留. Now, this is another critical dual meaning word in Canada. It definitely means a nature reserve or wildlife reserve for protecting animals. However, it also refers to First Nations reserves, which have very specific social and cultural significance across Canada. Understanding these dual meanings is absolutely critical for following along with the conversations in listening part 3. Coming in at term 9, global. Global, in Chinese, 全球的,全局的. You'll want to use collocations like global warming and global scale. There's actually a very popular environmental slogan in Canada, think globally, act locally. This is an incredibly effective framework to use in writing task 2 when you need to connect personal everyday habits, like recycling, to worldwide climate efforts. Term 10 is extinction. Extinction. The translation is 灭绝,绝种,灭绝,绝种. Canada actually has a strict Endangered Species Act, and you'll frequently read about indigenous plants or marine life that face extinction or are on the verge of extinction. This concept is a major environmental pain point and an incredibly common theme in the long-form texts of Reading Part 4. All right, we're now entering our final stretch, Section 3, Flora, Fauna, Geology, and Landforms. And let me reassure you right now, these might look like intimidating academic words, but for the CELPIP exam, they mostly just require recognition, not production. Knowing what they mean the second you see or hear them is going to save you vital time. Kicking off our final section with term 11, botany. Botany, in Chinese, 植物学. You'll definitely encounter collocations like study botany or visiting a botanical garden, such as the really famous Van Dusen Botanical Garden in Vancouver. Now, you don't need to be a scientist here. Just know that this is a common background term you'll hear in Listening Part 4 news reports about university research or new plant discoveries. Terms 12 and 13 go hand in hand. Flora and fauna. Listen to how they pair together. Flora.
Flora.
And fauna.
Fauna.
In Chinese, flora is 植物群,植物群, and fauna is 动物群,动物群. What's really crucial to remember here is that these two are a fixed pair. You'll almost always see the phrase flora and fauna together in tourism brochures for places like Banff or Jasper National Parks. This is essential for Reading Part 4, so you don't get stuck trying to translate. Just recognize them instantly as plants and animals and move on. Term 14 is geology. Geology. The translation is 地质学,地质情况. Because mining and oil extraction are huge economic pillars, especially in northern Canada, geology is a highly practical and common field of study. So expect to hear collocations like geology class or geological survey quite frequently as background context in Listening Part 5 academic or workplace dialogues. And here we are, our final term, number 15, summit. That's summit. In Chinese, 山顶,顶峰,首南会议. This word actually has massive frequency in Canada for two completely different reasons. First, the huge outdoor hiking culture, like reaching the summit of Grouse Mountain out in British Columbia. Second, it's used for high-level political events, like a G7 summit meeting. This makes it an incredibly useful, natural word to drop when you're describing a picture or an experience in Speaking Task 3 or 8. We've covered a ton of ground today, rigorously breaking down these 15 essential terms. But remember, mastering these specific words doesn't just help you pass an exam. It literally unlocks your ability to navigate everyday life and achieve true success in Canada. So I'll leave you with this thought. Are you ready to take these 15 core terms and seamlessly integrate them into the Canadian cultural and professional landscape to achieve your CLB 9+? Keep practicing, keep focused, and I'll see you in the next explainer.